Now, motorists can breathe a sigh of relief as the validity of driving licenses has been extended once again. Now, driving license cards, as well as learners and temporary licenses, as well as professional driving permits, which expired between the beginning of the lockdown and the 31st of August, are considered valid until the end of January next year. However, vehicle license discs and temporary permits, as well as roadworthy certificates that expired during the same period, are still only valid until the 31st of August. Now, the Road Traffic Management Corporation, or the RTMC, made that announcement this week as they acknowledge the backlog in testing centres due to COVID-19. So to discuss this matter, we're joined by Leighton Beard, who's a spokesperson for the Automobile Association. Thanks so much for your time. Welcome to Morning Live.
Thank you, Sakina. Good to be with you.
Leighton, first off, you obviously started a petition to get the validity period extended. So what sort of engagements have you been having with either the Department of Transport or the Road Traffic Management Corporation, or both?
Yeah, unfortunately, the engagement has been pretty muted. We've written a couple of letters to the Department of Transport and to the Minister of Transport outlining our concerns regarding the validity period of licenses. And we unfortunately didn't get much back, but there are obviously discussions that are held behind the scenes, but nothing official. What we then did, obviously, was we started our petition. We launched our petition exactly 2 weeks ago, where we urged government to extend the validity period of licenses until the end of January 2021. And I must say the response to that petition, Sakina, was absolutely incredible. Within the space of less than 2 weeks, we managed to get close to 25,000 signatures, which we are extremely thrilled about. And I think it sends a message that not only was the AA concerned, but there are a lot of motorists and consumers out there who are equally concerned, or who were equally concerned, about the validity of their licenses going into the new year.
So, Leighton, just for clarity, if we can just run through this again, let's go through what is and what is not extended at this point.
So if you have a vehicle license disc that expired between the 26th of March and the 31st of May, that vehicle license disc is valid until the end of August 2020, and that is obviously for roadworthy certificates as well. If you have a learner's license, if you have a PRDP, a professional driving permit, if you have a vehicle driving license card, these are all extended until the end of January 2021. But I think the point, Sakina, is that even though there has been an extension now and the validity period of these licenses has been extended for a couple of months, we as the AA would still urge all motorists who have license discs or who have vehicle license cards or learner's licenses that are expired or will be expiring before the end of the year to make every effort to go and get those renewed, because we don't want more backlogs going into the future. So if you are in a position to get that renewed and you do have the time to get that done, and you are able to get a slot at one of the driving license testing centres, and that centre is open, then we would certainly encourage you to go and do that.
On the other hand, Leighton, someone might ask, so why not simply extend everything, given that people regularly, call us, write to us, ask about why certain testing stations are closed, or they simply do not have access. You look at the SASA situation now, snaking queues at the post offices, for example, and people having real trouble accessing the services that they need to. So if someone were to ask you, so why didn't you just, look at asking for an extension to everything until the 31st of January?
Look, I think that's a valid question. And, we are looking at motorists specifically who are on the road with vehicle license discs and with driving license cards. And the issue that we had was that we were receiving, as you, I'm sure, many thousands of emails and phone calls and letters from not only our members, but other members of the public who were concerned about being legal on the road because these things were expiring. So we decided to take up the cause on their behalf. And that's something that the AA does on a regular basis. I mean, we really are the champion of motorists in South Africa. And we wanted to assist in a small way in helping these people stay legal on the road. Not only because they were scared that they were going to get fined, but certainly in many cases, people don't want to be on the road without proper driving permits. Because if there's an incident, their insurers may repudiate that. So that was the call that we made in terms of those documents. There are many documents that are obviously not covered by this. We would urge people who are not in this group of people whose licenses have been extended to contact the Road Traffic Management Corporation or the DLTCs where they are able to do so and to discuss their various individual issues with them.
Now, Leighton, how has COVID-19 and the lockdown affected operations at testing stations, broadly speaking? We know that these disruptions of having to open and close, that is a serious problem. But how has that affected the backlog, for example, that they already had?
Yeah, I mean, I think you ask a very good question, Sakina, and you phrase it very well because you say, how did that affect the backlog that they already had? And I think the point there is that there was a backlog before the lockdown even started. So let's use that as a starting point. When the lockdown came in March and April, obviously that just compounded the problem. Many thousands of people were added to that list of people whose licenses expired during that period, and they weren't able to access the services to renew that. COVID-19 has certainly had a huge impact on the delivery of services from the driving license testing centres. Not only are those centres now facing huge backlogs because of the lockdown that compounded the backlogs that were already there, but they are now opened intermittently. So you may find that a centre is open today, but it's closed on Monday because of COVID-19, or it's opened on Tuesday and then it only reopens again on a Friday. So that's the one issue. The second issue is that fewer people are working at these centres. So they're working, I wouldn't say on skeleton staff, but very close to that. So where in the past they were able to service 1,000 people a day at a specific centre, now that specific centre can only, for instance, service 200 people, which means there's 800 people who are not going to be in the system because COVID lockdown period. So COVID has certainly had a huge impact on the delivery of services to motorists. It's probably going to continue having a huge impact as we go forward. And I think when we look at the period of extension to January 2021, we trust that the government and the RTMC will review this in early January next year with a view to perhaps extending it even further. And to your question earlier, perhaps including even more licenses that have expired in that group of licenses that is extended. It's a huge issue. It's a huge concern for the AA. It's a big problem for motorists. It's a big concern for motorists as well, who, in our experience, want to be legitimate and compliant, but in the face of all of these problems regarding the DLTCs, are just physically unable to actually get these things renewed.
And then just looking at how things are playing out right now, practically, Leighton, have you heard, has there been any feedback to you of any problems that motorists may have experienced with regard to these expired documents?
Yeah, certainly, Sakina. I mean, like I said earlier, we receive many calls and emails from people who are struggling to get bookings online. There are many people in other provinces other than Gauteng who are contacting us, telling us that they've made appointments to go to DLTCs only to discover that those DLTCs are then closed. They get too long queues. One of the biggest problems that we are encountering at the moment is a lot of people are very concerned about going to the DLTCs because they have comorbidities for COVID-19. So they're either diabetic, or they overweight, or they are very old, or they've already got existing health conditions. So they're very concerned about standing in queues. And when they get to the DLTCs, they find because of the reduced number of staff that are there, these queues are very long. So we are hearing lots of problems regarding the renewal of licenses. Vehicle license discs is a special case because that's that's something that you can obviously do at a post office if you have a post office that can do that, and if their system is communicating with a NATA system at that moment, which I know is also a problem, and we've heard from many people who say, you know what, we go to the post office, it's just not working. So we're grateful for the extension. We think government took a bold step in extending the validity period. It doesn't mean that the problems are over. There are still many problems, and we're not sure that it's entirely going to get sorted by the end of January next year, which is why I said earlier that I think government certainly needs to review this in early 2021.
Finally, Leighton, what do you think and how do you think government can actually go about clearing the backlogs between now and the end of January?
Yeah, I think what this has shown, Sakina, is that there is a huge need for a discussion around the operational side of vehicle license renewals, driving card license renewals. The AA has offered that, we basically urged the minister to consider allowing third-party agents such as the AA to perform certain of these functions. We have a network across the country that can do that. We're in a position to assist. Not only will that help clear the backlog now, but going forward, it may relieve pressure on the DLTCs, not only in 2021, but, into perpetuity. So we think that that really does need to be looked at by government, bringing in third-party agents to assist with these renewals. But it also, I think, at this stage is a good time to be talking about how the system works. Where are the problems? How can it be improved? And to bring people like the AA in, who we get a lot of calls from our members and non-members who discuss their problems with us. So I think we understand where the issues are, and we have always said to government, and I'll say it again now, we are always open to discuss these issues with them, and we certainly would like to do that. We think now is the right time to get this sorted out once and for all.
Well, thanks once again, Leighton Beard, the spokesperson for the Automobile Association, talking to us there about the extension of the validity period for some driving documents due to the coronavirus pandemic. Let's take a break before we read a few more of your tweets to end the show.
This Friday on the Afro Cafe stage, Dr. Dumi dedicates an emotional special performance to a fellow frontline doctor.
You, Lord.
Magzoba flexes his velvety voice. All this on Afro Cafe, Friday at 7 p.m. only on SABC2.
We're gonna love it.